Hello, everyone. Good morning, and welcome to another episode of Observable Flutter. I'm your host, Greg Labenz, and today we're going to be continuing building a cheap social media app called Chirpy with Flutter and Serverpod, resuming where we last saw our heroes from, I think it was last week. I was working on a little data layer, and I've given it some thought while I was walking my dog at various times over the week. Haven't really looked at the code since the last episode, but I'm excited to add some improvements and move us forward today. So, without further ado, remember, people, this is the Flutter community. We've got the Flutter code of conduct. We're all just going to try to be great to each other, despite what the internet has taught us for the last 20 years. And I don't think there's anything else to say about that. So, hello, Wolf Pod. How do you do? Probably need to go to this one, huh? All right. Oh, what's happening here? I just tried to run the app. Flutter pub spec, and it didn't run. So, this used to only work with 18.0. Now it seems to only work with, or 18.1. Now it seems to only work with 19.0. I feel like I had to actually change that from 19 to 18.1. Now I have to change back. The joys of the master channel, the daily comings and goings of unexpected requirements. All right, anyway, just trying to run the app to make sure it still works. Well, Randall, I hope the Flutter meetup meeting was good, and welcome. Glad to see you. Hello to Peru from California. Yeah. All right. Enough. Let's look at what we had last week, and I have one initial idea that I know I want to revisit, and then we'll see where the winds take us. What was that already? What was that idea? For like previously on Observable Flutter, kind of catch up. All right, there it is. Bunch of nothing going on. Started adding auth in the first episode and then got distracted because I wanted to work on the data layer. So the app is really in an incoherent state right now. That's okay. Previously on Observable Flutter, I was adding this timeline block and page, which will one day, you can see it's a really impressive page. It will one day show posts in this Chirpy app. But I was also adding a class called a post. And then I was, adding this little post wrapper class that was going to connect the dots between an agnostic data layer repository system and classes from Serverpod, which have their own chain of ancestor classes and, and that is all just outside of my control and influence. And so what I thought I might do is wrap each class in this little thin layer that kind of proxies to internal things. But I don't like that because I was immediately, I have to accept a post wrapper item here and then like unwrap it to send it to the back end, because this is a totally client side consideration. So like unwrap it here to send it to the back end and then rewrap it when we get the raw response back. And on the server, there's no knowledge of any of this, which is good. At least one area was not being affected. Oh, I don't think I even wrote this function yet, obviously. But I don't like this post wrapper and I don't want to do it, and we're going to get rid of it. That's the first goal today. And the thought that I had basically stems, or it comes around, oh, here's another thing, right? The from JSON method, it's got to return a post wrapper, not a post. So first we have to deserialize the post and then like stick it in the post wrapper so that it can conform with this. Oh goodness, just terrible. Just terrible. What is being built in this series? That would be a very cheap social media app called Chirpy. Oh, hello, Simon and Victor, folks who have written, honestly, probably more Flutter. I think each of you have written more Flutter code in your lives than me. So just everyone keep that in mind. Don't take anything I say too seriously. Welcome, everybody. So I don't like this wrapper class and I want to get rid of it. And I think what I'm going to do instead is stop wrapping objects in anything and pass in a like helper class that will be stateless and proxies all of the attributes that we need from the inner objects to what the repository cares about. And this will allow, I think, a really seamless way to have our repositories either use, there's a bit of racket going on outside my room right now. It will allow repositories to use either Serverpod classes or anything else. And that I think will be exciting. So let's revisit this repository object here and update its definition. So first of all, T is now going to get to be anything. This is going to be a really important idea. And the model wrapper here, I think we can rename to like model bindings, maybe something like that. And this will have some type, and we don't care what the type is at all, but we'll have a constructor that takes a T. Oh, wait, on an abstract class, do I need to write this constructor? I don't know. We'll see as we keep going here. And so integer here is, maybe we'll just call it like get ID. And it will be nullable because maybe the object's saved, maybe not, to JSON. So that's pretty good. And then we'll have a from JSON as well. So this can return a T from JSON. So just all the meta information that we might need: map, string, object, JSON. And if we pass in, oh no, it's not even going to take a thing. Yeah. This can be totally stateless. Like we'll pass in the object at each moment. Yeah, right. I almost forgot. Now we definitely don't need this constructor. Maybe we'll want these to be constable. All right, so we'll have a constructor. Things are getting exciting. Is this really live? This may prove to you that this is live. Or it may only make you suspect a spooky level of coordination in advance. But yeah, no, I believe it's live. Unless this is all just a dream and you're the only character and I don't even exist, which is hard to rule out. Actually, I think we can rule that out. I don't think that's how the universe works. All right, so we're going to have a model bindings class, and this is going to connect any dots that we need if the repository is going to make a generic assumption about the shape of a T, but I don't want to actually enforce what T is. It's going to be this model bindings class that connects those dots. So we're no longer going to take a from JSON. We will instead take this bindings helper thing. So this will be required this dot bindings, and bindings is going to be, this is a model bindings of type T. It's got to be the same thing. Again, no concerns at all about what thing that is. This will be final and its bindings. Now, here we need to get the ID for the object. And so we'll say bindings.getID item. And it's still, we still have to have the exclamation point because ID is still intentionally nullable, but that'll be better. And I didn't even end up using the from JSON, but we're going to use it before too long, I presume. All right, this is better, I do believe. And so now the post repository is just a repository on posts. And it will need a bindings class, which we haven't made yet. And so then post wrapper, all of this, these two are just going to be post. We don't have to wrap what we get back, and we don't have to do this. Look at how much better that is. Yeah, we don't really need that await either, because whatever function calls persist can do the awaiting. So the inner await is redundant. Yeah, is this something like a data access object? Yeah, kind of. So I'm thinking about one of the things I talked about last episode in of this stream was having a dedicated data, a transit object that's kind of the public version of the backend thing. And Victor was in the chat. That's the main fellow behind Serverpod, and he advised that I try not to do that right out of the gate. That is my kind of default assumption for what to do, but I'm going to try to do this the Serverpod way instead, at least to start, which will involve just having one class. By the way, how's the font size? It should probably be bigger. Just having one class that is a database table and is shared with the front end, so it's not server side only. And then if necessary, we might hide some fields or whatnot. But yeah, that's what we're doing, and that's what's going on here. And we are live. A lot of accurate statements. Okay, closing things. So we don't need a post wrapper anymore, but we do need like post bindings that are going to extend model bindings of type post. And this is going to be a super simple thing to implement. It doesn't take, I guess we'll have a const constructor. What are you upset about? All the things have, so there's no value, no thing there. Get ID is now a method that will take a post item and we will return the item.id. What are you mad about? Parameter item doesn't match. Oh, okay, fine. Object. To JSON, this has to take the item. So again, post item. Am I calling it like item sometimes and post other times and object other times? Yeah, object. Oh, it's always object. All right, great. Good on me. Object. So these are just real simple pass-throughs. Post. This is from JSON. It takes a map of strings to objects. What do we call that? JSON. Great. And here it's post.from JSON, and we'll pass in, because remember, this method now comes from Serverpod, because that's where this class came from. So we pass in the JSON, and then Serverpod requires a second parameter that is the protocol, and that's getting removed in a future version, because as you can see, it's clearly redundant, and it doesn't tell us anything interesting. This is a singleton, this class. So we can, if you're like originating within the deserialization logic of, an endpoint, for example, then this is just getting passed around, but it's an assumption of the Serverpod deserialization setup right now, but it's a singleton. So we can freely, and it's stateless, so we can freely create another one right now. It won't create another one. It'll just access the singleton for us. And that's that. Now, for these bindings, we can pass in post bindings. And was that a named? It is a named parameter. And that can be constipated which is the technical term for when you add const to something. You constipate it. No one questioned me on this. This is important that you all take this at face value. Yeah, we're live, unless you're watching this on YouTube, and then you're traveling back in time. But then that mean we're dead? Okay, I think this is a really big improvement over the previous setup. I don't need to import data anymore. Why is that? What was I importing data for before that I don't need to now? Oh no, it has some other concern. Oh, it wants me to bring it in from the package chirpy flutter source data. No, I don't know. Where am I? Well, there's no source directory. There we go. Okay. That seems good. Now, what other madness did I write last week that we need to undo? Yes. So this block can now not emit a, yeah, we don't have to wrap this in a, oh God, this was so terrible. Man, I remember I was writing this last week and just thought, I've already screwed it up. 10 minutes into this project and I already hate my code. This is way better. All right, one day we're going to omit something maybe, but today is not that day because I haven't even written the save method at the other end of this repository. But soon we'll be actually able to save the thing. And where is post-to-co? Here we go. Chirpy. Yeah, soon there's going to be a value in here. That'll be fun. Oh, there's a light bulb rewrite to do that fix. Which fix was that? You said this 1 minute ago. What was I doing 1 minute ago that you were able, there was a light bulb fix for? I mean, I was removing the post wrapper, but that would be a crazy light bulb fix. I wonder what that was. Oh, adding the package. Yeah. Oh, converting it to the correct import. Yeah. Yep. That's true. Should have just done that. All right. So I think we're ready to add the endpoint. And then actually, maybe even to start, let's have a kind of walkthrough of all the layers here. There is no page yet. Nothing, this block doesn't get used yet. Well, we saw the page and it's very primitive. So one day this page will use the block and it will add an event to it. That day has not arrived yet, but that is our timeline block. And below here, here was a future method that'll be added soon. Below here, we see a very simple timeline event definition, currently with only one possible event this block can do. Soon it'll have load and maybe refresh, who knows. And then there's our state. And as you can see here, I'm using freeze for all of these. I do this because I really like the map method specifically on event. And then I like the copy with method for the state class. These are not perfect solutions. They have their own tricky downsides. I talked about that a bit last week. But I find the upsides way bigger than the downsides, personally. So this is our timeline block, but one of my other core things that I want to talk about in this whole project is that your state management solution should feel like it's a really thin, really simple layer within your project. And if it doesn't, you're probably putting too much stuff in your state management classes, be they block or Riverpod or MobX or Redux or command or anything. None of those will save you from smushing your data layer into your state management stuff. So the block accepts this repository and it is going to do all the work of getting on the network, caching any data. Of course, that caching will then assist us later when we try to read some data and we want to read the cache first. All that would muddy the living heck out of these methods, but a dedicated data layer can do it in an organized way because it doesn't have to worry about listening to the UI. So that, you might think like, well, won't your data layer just be crazy? Well, not necessarily, because it doesn't have to do some things because it can depend on the block to do them. All right. So this is how the block will then call repo.save. And This gets us into the repository, which extends this base class, and this is where generic logic will happen. So there's a persist method, which will actually do the saving. I don't know how much I love these naming things yet, but whatever. Persist actually writes the object to whatever our persistence is. In our case, we're using Serverpod for that. But this is, of course, the method that a child, an extending class will implement. Save, you do not have to implement because it just calls persist. It handles any local caching for us. This is, of course, a very primitive caching approach. And then it returns the item that the server gave us back. And so in our post repository, we have but to implement persist, which uses Serverpod to send the item across the wire, which brings us at last to the Chirpy server folder, which is the server-side part of Serverpod. That feels like it's almost a tongue twister, but not really. Anyway, and we get to this save method, which I had to make not have any parse errors so that I could run Serverpod generate. That's why it just throws this exception. Today, it will do a real thing. And it is time. And I'm pretty sure what it does is incredibly easy. It is session dot. No, what is it? DB? DB next. Whoa. What? Post? I don't remember. Let's just go to the documentation. I've not written this enough times to know. Database? Models? Oh, CRUD. That's probably what we want. Literally the name of the... Oh, right. It's off the class. It's not off session. We pass session to the method. Yeah, so session just has the connection info, but that's not where we access all the things that we want. That's right. That's right. That's right. So here it's post.db.insert row. And we have to pass it the session and then the row. And then we can return that. And this, of course, returns itself a future of type post. So returning that satisfies us. We do not have to await. That would be redundant. Oh, here the linter is not whining about it. It must be different analysis option settings, but that's fine. It's still redundant. We don't need to do it. And look at how simple this is. On the server side, we don't have to deserialize the method, or we don't deserialize the item. That's done for us. We don't have to turn the Postgres row back into a post object, realizing now that the sound post is coming up everywhere here. But that's pretty cool. And then we call this save method from the front end like it is a local method. So the whole networking layer is hidden from us. Because in fact, this is a local method that was generated by Serverpod that handles all of the stuff for us. So, there's no way for me to call this yet because the page is that empty. Good stuff. One thing I also want to think about here is like testability for this. I wonder, should I do the UI stuff first, or should we write some tests for this first? What parts of this data repo setup is because of Serverpod's opinions rather than what you do normally? I do all of this normally, but even more so. This is a really, really, really simplified version of what I do normally. Yeah, no CS problem that can't be solved by adding enough layers of indirection. Pretty true, except maybe too much indirection. That would be tough. Okay, we have some keen eyes in the chat. That's great. You're correct. Is it not possible to generate required functions by right-clicking the class name instead of using code generator, similar to how getters and setters are created in Java? Or is there any other use? There are some VS Code extensions that will generate a little code for you, but the Serverpod way is a very specific, very focused generator that couples in a good way, which is a rare sentence you get to say, your front end to your back end. It generates methods on the front end that are paired one-to-one with a method on the back end, and they handle all your transfer back and forth. So you can use other code generation, but it won't get you a full stack solution like Serverpod does. Why not use the enhanced switch expression for event mapping? That's an older question from a few minutes ago. That's actually a pretty, there's not really a good answer to this other than this pattern that I have been using predates the existence of enhanced like enums, where you might do that otherwise. I presume you're kind of talking about enums because if you only have the enhanced switch expression, they don't have exhaustiveness checking unless you use something like an enum. And I have been just doing this since before Dart enhanced its enums. Oh, not the Serverpod generator, but the freezed generator. The freezer also, that's funny. Yeah, you don't have to use freezed classes for sure. There are simpler, lighter weight code generation things, but freezed offers a really cool sealed union thing implementation. All right. So the two things that we can do next are either explore the testability of this front end code. I'm not going to, I guess later we can also explore the testability of the back end code to make sure that this function works correctly. I don't have any idea how to do that. Maybe there's documentation on it. The front end code is way more imaginable, of course. We could mock client and build our own post repository in a test and like see that the client, in fact, in a real app, I would wrap the client as well. I wouldn't pass the raw client into the repository. I would pass some wrapper that itself would be very easy to mock, but then you have to test that wrapper. So I don't know if that's any better. Project structure, sure. Yeah. There's 3 main folders in a fresh Serverpod project, and they all start with the name of your project. So for us, that's Chirpy. And then server is all the code that runs on the back end. Serverpod comes with Terraform manifest files to deploy this to Google Cloud or other clouds. But this is what ultimately runs and fulfills all of your requests that come from the front end. _Flutter is the actual Flutter app. This is honestly a very conventional Flutter app. You build this just like a Flutter app. There's, I don't believe, any generated code in here. And then client is entirely generated off of the definition that Serverpod finds in your server. So the server is where you kind of declare how things are going to work. Serverpod then generates the client, and the client you import into your Flutter project, and it is the glue code that helps you call the backend methods as if they were just local sitting in your project, because in fact they are local, and there's a hidden network layer in the middle. Yeah, I saw one person said, I'm the only person here who doesn't understand anything. Well, we're not at top level. I promise you that. At least I'm not. But just listen and absorb. You'll definitely get there, assuming you're enjoying yourself. But yeah, everyone starts not knowing anything. That is true. Oh, but no, Pat, you're spitting wisdom here. And then after you work 15 years, you still know nothing. That's raise your hand if that's you. Okay. Can you clone this project from GitHub? Yes, it is available here. And at the end of every stream, I'll just commit and push whatever I did that day. All right, I'm going to do the UI first and then maybe testability. Okay. So I'm going to close some files, go back to the timeline view. Here we are. So this is going to need to get a timeline block. I also was talking about, there's no auth yet, but there will be. So maybe the timeline will have like an optional user whose timeline it is at some point in the future. Or maybe that'll just be a whole separate page and a whole separate block. I'm not sure. For now, we're just pretending there's like a singleton feed that everyone writes to and everyone reads the same thing from, kind of how actual social media apps launch before they personalize everything to hell and hide all the content from the people that you follow, because apparently that's what we want. So this is the timeline page, and it is going to need a Oh, we need a create page first. What is the right way? What's our home page here? App, view. Here we go. Okay, so we're defaulting to the login page. That's not what we're going to do anymore. Not going to do that again until this will just default to the timeline page. I think adding auth will make sense specifically when I like add routing as well. Because then your routing system needs to read the auth and figure out, oh, if you're not logged in, then you go to the login page. If you're logged in, then you go to the home page, and kind of automating that stuff, I think, is all kind of one conjoined aspect of building an app. So we'll do those together for now. You're just going to the timeline page, which is apparently not what I called it. It's just called timeline. Okay, now it's a timeline page. Great. And this will need the block that it will either pull from here or will grab itself. Now here, there's some interesting stuff here. Because the data repository is going to be this will be a singleton. In fact, I need to make this accessible via get and injectable. But the post repository that will always be, it's like Highlander. There can only be one. So there will only be one post repository. This is a way that I think about the lifetime of different objects in an app. If it's in the data layer and it does something like local caching, holding on to data, which of course we are doing here, then this object should probably live forever. We wouldn't want to throw this repository away when a user leaves a page. Why did we bother caching anything? So if this repository, and by that I mean the actual instance of a post repository, should live for a long time, the whole life of the app, then multiple blocks who need to load posts can just grab the one post repository. And the block itself is kind of stateless in that it will only live for the lifetime of the user's time on whatever page needs that block. So I am very comfortable creating a new block. You can do it in the init state method of a page. If that block is coupled to that page, you don't necessarily need to like provide it and go grab it. And this becomes true if the data layer is long lived and you know that if the user goes to the page, leaves, goes back to the page, leaves again, like every time, if they're just getting the same repository, then the block can be spun up and torn down kind of as needed freely. So that's what we're going to do. So the post repository, I need to make accessible via get. And in this project, if I recall from the first stream, I'm using injectable. And I say that with genuine uncertainty due to the nature of my bad memory. Yeah, so here we've got injectable is configuring dependencies, and that's calling init. And then in here, there's actual classes. Oh, I even wrapped the client. Oh yeah, with a module. Nice. Look at me. I was thinking ahead and stuff. So here's the trippy client module. Oh, would you look at that? All right, that's cool. But what we actually want to do is I'm going to close some other files here. I'm going to make the post repository accessible via injectable. So I think it's like injectable straight away, but then I need to also tell it to be a singleton. Injectable. Oh, here we go. Class singleton. So do I just do this? Singleton? That does appear to be it. All right, now we need to build. And that is app build, I guess. I think we're just going to actually change this to build. I think when I use the Flutter build command in the make file, that'll be like release. That'll be better. Let's see. I spot some good questions. Scrolling back up, trying to find them. The chat window likes to jump around. Is there a way to have a microservice architecture with Serverpod? And if not, is that planned? That's interesting. So like multiple clients is the aspect of what you're asking that may not be automatic. And yeah, that's pretty interesting. I don't, it's hard for me to imagine anything that would prevent someone from having chirpy server, microservice one. Oh, great. The lawn people are here. What calamitous timing. Amazing. Hopefully, how loud is it? How loud is the gas engine right outside my window right now? Can you all hear it? I don't think there's anything that would prevent someone from having chirpy microservice one, chirpy microservice two, paired with chirpy client one, chirpy client two, and then import all of those into the Flutter app and call them separately. I haven't tried it, but that's an interesting question. Oh, and then actually Victor has literally already answered this. You can do it as a microservice, especially the upcoming Serverpod Mini, which is in alpha. It's very lightweight and doesn't require a database. Now, you may want all of your microservices to use a database, so that may or may not be helpful. Wow, it's so loud. All right, the voice, can't hear it or can hear it a little bit. All right, I can live with either of those. So anyway, did that run? It did run. Did it work? Back in Flutter lib. Oh yeah, we want to do pub get. Oh yeah, I'm going to add that to the make file. So every time we run this, I need to do cd chirpy Flutter and Flutter pub get. Boy, it's loud. It's real loud for me. That will rebuild the stuff like localization. All right, injectable config. Do you now know about the post repository? And it's a singleton. We could do a lazy singleton. It doesn't really matter for our purposes. You might care. It would be an unsatisfying trip for somebody to launch this app and never do anything that loads a post. So I don't think I care a ton between singleton and lazy singleton. But this timeline page can now become a stateful widget. I just can't even believe how loud it is. And this will have a final post repository. No, this is the block. Sorry. The timeline block. And it'll be late, I guess. And then we have to import it. Looking good. And then in a init state, we can say that the block equals get it .I post repository. Oh no, sorry. My brain is really focused on this being the repository and not the block, which doesn't make any sense. Get it I post repository. And we have to import these things. Please get it. And data, why does data not export the repository? Data, oh yes, post repository. Oh, there you go. And now back in the timeline page, you can just do data. Oh, it's a problem here. 2 new positional arguments. What? Oh, the block needs initial state. That's right. Did I add an initial to the timeline state? No, but I will do that now. So for freeze to add other properties, we first have to add a secret const constructor, and then we can say factory timeline state dot initial, and this will give us a timeline state with no posts to start, and certainly no error. And this can be const. Oh, this can be const. Timeline state. Probably have to spell everything correctly. Cool. And I don't know if I need to rerun freeze. Let's find out. Anyway, the block takes its repository and it has to take a timeline state dot initial. There we go. I feel like injectable is really great. I love its simplicity. Yeah, we did almost nothing. If you're on Sonoma, you can use voice isolation on your current microphone device. It's in the mic menu bar. Oh, yeah, that feature set that I've been lamenting may actually... Wait, it's like here, right? Yeah. Oh, it is already on voice isolation. Maybe that is why you all are being spared the cacophony that is my room. Wonderful. That's incredible. Okay, so we're almost ready to have this timeline page do something for us, which will start. Wow. Voice isolation is doing some heavy lifting right now. It's just fantastically distracting. I don't know how else to put it. We need to create something. And then, creation really needs its own page. So I think we'll just do the old scaffold. It'll have a floating action button. It'll be the plus floating action button. I wish I had video of what's going on in my room right now. I can't even hear myself. All right, so on pressed, this is going to do context.push. How does it? I haven't done navigation without Go Router in so long. I don't even know how to push a route. Flutter, push, material, route. I have no memory of how to do this. Navigate to a new screen. Here's some old code. This looks like what I want. Navigator of context. Yeah, good stuff. All right. So we're going to go to a create page. Okay, that's good. Material page route. What's your problem? Type argument can't be inferred. Okay, so this is the page. I'm not going to worry about that. I don't care. All right, the builder is going to go to a new post screen. There we are, and we just have to make that. Timeline. I kind of want to like move all of the screens into their own folder of like screens. This might be nicer. A new file. Screens.dart. We're going to move timeline in here. This will be momentarily disruptive. And then a new folder. New post. .dart. No, that's not what you want to put at the end of a folder name. New file in here. New post. .dart. And this is going to have a new post view.dart, which will be exported here. And this will have a stateless widget. I hate when I get this autocomplete so much. Does anyone else get this? Why is this happening to me? Why? How do you distribute strings across feature packages in a multi-package Flutter project instead of having all the strings in a single package? Why wouldn't... Is there a bad thing about having them all in one package? I'm not... Oh, Randall says I might be able to use void. Void? Sick. Oh, it's the return type, maybe. T extends page route of T. Oh, yeah, is there... Oh, it's funny. T doesn't even appear in this. It must only be in whatever. Yeah, I think that's the return type, which won't matter here because we're not going to do any state management in the onPressed book, handler for this floating action button. It will all be in blocks and other classes. So anyway, stateless widget, come on, give me the good one. Is it this? Stateless. There we go. That's what we want. So this is the new post screen, and screens, you're going to export new post, and then we need to do the same thing for timeline. Okay, get out of here. The funny thing is, this one should obviously have its own block as well. New post block.dart, and the save functionality to put in timeline I'm just going to rip out immediately. Not going to be creating any new posts on the timeline anymore, but that's okay. So we need a block here. Import package flutter block, and then we're going to use freezed. And let's do it. So we know we're going to have a part file that'll be new post block.freezed.dart. None of this needs to be serialized because it's not going across the wire, so we don't need the .g file. And then we can have a class new post block that will extend the new post. Sorry, it's not extending. Well, it will extend. You can watch my brain get confused in real time. New post state. Seems good. Freezed. Class new post event extends new post event. I have to shout to hear myself. New post state. That's looking good. And then you need a constructor with the initial super. No, we can just say super dot initial state. All right, the linter almost likes us. So our new post event is basically just going to be save. Yeah. So this will be const factory new post event dot save. It's going to take a post item, and that is going to redirect to save new post event. I don't know, something like that. We have to import post. That should just come from Otrippy client. Indeed. Yeah, we don't have to import anything local for that. And then our state is a little more ambiguous. Here we don't have a named version of this constructor, so we'll redirect to a private one, new post state, because remember, there's only one version of the state in this approach. I already know that we'll need to have the private constructor so that I can have the initial factory.initial, and that will return a new post state with some yet to be seen contents. So what is this new post state going to need? I guess it'll need like the string that is the body. And then we'll need like validation errors, but I think I'm going to not use any of those. I think I'm just going to totally cheat and assume that this is sufficient. There's not going to be a lot of error handling in V1 of this fine class. All right, this file may compile, which is a satisfying little jingle. The file may compile. Make build. Let's see what y'all are talking about. The new post event. Oh, so that's the name that you're going for. Oh, wait, well, maybe not, because that's what this is. Maybe you're just being silly. Or are you proposing that that's what this should be called? It was getting loud, man. It was so loud here. You can't even believe it. Maybe you can, because you finally heard it. Let's see. By the way, with freeze, you can also make new post state and new post event a sealed class. Yeah. So are you proposing that they should be together? Because I want to have event be its own sealed class. That'll be multiple types of events, but then there's only one state. But are you proposing that they be together? Because that would be a new concept to me. Oh, yeah, it was so loud here. So loud. Hi, I'm learning Dart and Flutter. Is clean architecture a good thing to understand and use? I think clean architecture is fairly polarizing in that it offers really helpful guardrails, and many people find clean architecture to be kind of painfully verbose and painful in that way. Oh, this actually failed because I needed to type required. The parameter is required. So I think there's concepts from clean architecture that are really helpful, and I wouldn't advise anyone to become a religious zealot for clean architecture. I mean, it's just so many files, so many folders. It's nuts. The way you search for help on Stack Overflow. Did I use Stack Overflow? Oh, I did. Yeah. Well, let's make it bigger so everyone can see. Yeah, I totally forgot how to do that. Sealed class new post event and that kind of sealed. I see. So what does that get me? Sealed just means no one else can extend it, right? Do I, this isn't a package. I'm not releasing this code. So do I'm curious, Pat, what would I gain from that? All right, did the build runner run? It looks like no. Looks like there's still some error. Wait, did it run? Dependencies, 25 packages. What's going on here? Does it say no changes? Am I reading that? No. What's happening? Did it run? Yeah, it ran. Okay, cool. Here's this file. What are things mad about? Extends. Classes can only extend other classes. Got this error on both of them. What did I do wrong? New post block.freeze, and that calls back new post event. That's only a mix-in. Why? Wait, what did I do wrong? Let's look at the other block. What did I do wrong? So same name, but with the $sign. Same name, but with the $sign. What am I doing here? Oh, sealed means can be exhaustive, right? Because it can't be extended. Yeah, I'm getting that from the map class. Or the map method. I think one thing, that folks are pointing out here is like some of the stuff from freeze that used to be exclusive has since arrived via fancy enums and the sealed class modifier. But because I'm going to call event.map at all times, I believe I'm kind of already in that boat. Why is this mad at me? What is the difference? Okay, don't care about that. The block is empty in the event. What is wrong with the event? Got the decorator with the class name. Oh, we do have to type with because it's a mix-in. Wow, I forgot about that. I think I just wrote some like 2020, 2021 code. That extends are super old. It's funny how the brain does that. I've written with in this moment every time for months, and all of a sudden my brain just writes extends, and like that is what feels correct. It's funny. Okay. We're cooking now. Oh, and the body here. Oh, should this be? No, it's not an empty string. It's really null, isn't it? It's nullable. So let's regenerate real quick. So now back to the new post view. We can do a similar thing that I did earlier on the timeline block. We'll grab a block. That'll be the new post block. New post on the block. Had a bunch of blocks. New post block, which we apparently have to import. That's fine. Okay. Seems good. Init state. Yes. Very good. We do the exact same thing. Go away. Be gone. Leave me alone. Good. Thank you. Thank you. Carry on. Get it? Please come here. You're going to need a repository as well, good sir. Data. Whoops. That was apparently wrong. Where's the darn data import? Why was it proposing? Bruh. I just want the whole thing. Data looking good. What's the issue now? Right. We need to actually add that parameter. This dot block. Repo. Final post repository repo. And we'll import that. Nice. Nice. Timeline state? No, good sir. You are the new post state. All right. I'm going to need a form here. Let's return a scaffold. It'll have a body. It'll have a column. It'll have some widgets. And those will include a text field. Then we'll get a text controller. Oh, it's text editing controller, eh? All right, so you're going to get the controller. This is how we'll drive the text field and listen to its behavior. And then we're going to need a... We'll center this. Oh, you know what? I was literally working on... I was writing something yesterday, and I thought, this column isn't going to extend full width left to right. And I was like, what is the easiest way to do that? And again, this is yesterday evening, and I was like, I don't remember. So I just wrapped it in a sized box that I sized based on the media query. But that's not the right way to do that, right? Does anyone... Can I phone a friend and find out how you all would make this column be full width on the cross-axis size. Then we'll put a save button on the floating action. Floating action button. And this is going to get an on-pressed value that will be block.add. And this will add the new post event. No, it's the save new post event. And the item is a post whose body, we have to import the post class. Okay, I'm getting there. Steady, steady. What are the fields on post? Body, author, and created at. And I just kind of have to BS my way into a lot of those. So the author is going to be me. That's a to-do, if you've ever seen one. The body is the controller dot text, and the created at, I'd love to come from the server. I don't want to set this. That'll be a question for our lives. I guess I could set it and it'll just be reset by the server. That is ugly and I don't like it, but I'm going to do it for now. So I don't get lost in the weeds. Date time dot now. To do, figure out how to not have to set this now because it will ultimately be rewritten by Postgres, which has the only clock we care about. Okay, that is good. Now we will add an app bar. It says app bar. Title is a text widget that says new post. Some really advanced Flutter. Cross-axis alignment.stretch. Oh, I didn't see stretch. I did look at this last night and I just didn't see stretch. I think I was also looking for like, because there's main axis size. Yeah, this is what happened. There's main axis size, which kind of does the same thing for the main axis. But I was looking for like cross-axis size. So I didn't miss stretch. I didn't even look at the values for it. So that's what happened. But thank you. And also, doesn't this feel like it should be the size? It's not the alignment. It's the size. Anyway, whatever. So we have a page that I believe will do a thing. And if I go to the block, you take an event. We need to now actually call any of this code. So we'll say on. This is a new post event. So the way this works for block is you call this on method and you pass it a type of event. The docs would advise calling on once per event type. Sorry, the events are here, aren't they? I don't love that because I'm forgetful and will forget to call the, to add a new handler for a new event type down the line. So I have a smooth brain and I need to have the compiler help me. So I will say event.map. And this is where we get into sealed union stuff that, you can do other ways. This is the freezed way. That sounds like a word. It's like real close to highway in my brain. The freezed way. It's like the frozen highway, the freezed way. So here we'll say, this will be a new method. Oh, sorry. We have to pass this a method that takes the event. So this takes the event and it's going to call like save post. And then we'll pass that, both the event and the emit method. And then we can say future void save post. This will now take the save new post event and the emitter of post states, new post states, emit. And you're probably asynchronous. So in here, we can at last say repo dot save event dot item. And say final saved post equals event, equals await. And then we'll have to figure out what we want to do after this. Let's get this working and then I'll figure out what comes next. That all seems reasonable. This file looks reasonable. The timeline view is very upset because you don't know about the new post screen. Well, let me introduce you. And that can be constipated. These widgets need some prunes. No red. A lot of why do you write such bad code, Senor Craig, from the linter, but no red. You'll love to see it. What's your deal here? Oh yeah, the timeline view. So I do want to kill some dead code. Why do you not? Oh yeah, because screens brings in the timeline block now. That's right. Okay. The timeline block can still create stuff. Also, I want to rename this to be similar to post, where it's just like timeline block, but I'll do that later. You can't save anymore. It's not a thing that you do. There's no save method here. It's not a thing. This will, for now, just do this because we're about to have literally no events. So I'll just leave that for now. I don't know what this class would like do if I had no subclasses. So we'll remove save when there's something else like load. All right. So I don't need to rebuild because I didn't redo that definition. I think I can just run the app and watch it crash in some way. Oh, may not need it because the text field would automatically expand. Interesting. So that's going back to the new post view. And this you think we may not need because the text field may grow. It's a simple UI, but it's honest work. Simon argues it should be the default. I think this is still going back to the cross-axis thing for a column, and I agree. All right. Oh, I did forget to put a child widget on the timeline views floating action button. So let's do that. Child, which goes on the bottom. This will be an icon. That'll get icons.add. Refresh. Here we go. Okay. Add. New post. It's definitely big. Now I'm curious though. Did this need to be a thing? Comment out. Reload. Doesn't seem like it needed to be a thing. Great. Also, I hate it because it needs padding. Let's give a little more padding than that. I mean, come on. We're not paying by the pixel here. All right. Very good. Wrote the developer. Oh, and I also forgot to give a thing there. So on the new post view, which I'm on, here we go. Post, blah, blah, blah. Child. Where do you go? No, here. Here. Save a thing? Great. Oh, I did a hot restart, not a hot reload. All right, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Oh, that's the old floppy disk. Not good. Not good for save. But very good is what I said last time. Nice. Crashed. Love it. Is this the... I thought I fixed this. Interesting. I think I'm getting the entitlement error, but didn't I run into this forever on the first stream and checked the box? And why is it happening again? Does anyone know? Xcode, where you at? There we go. Runner. Yeah, outgoing. Oh, okay. So it's some other error. Oh, yeah, I should probably start the server, huh? And I'll need to generate. Whoa. Make file. So migrate on the server. We're going to need to do generate. No, I don't think I have to generate anything. I changed the body of that method, but the body's not part of the generation. So that should be fine. Don't have to migrate anything. Just run the server, I think. Make server. Icon's not done, huh? Okay, that's interesting. We'll check that out in a minute. Oh, there we go. Okay, wait. Where did... Oh, I killed it. App. All right. This is going to work. Probably not, but maybe. Icon. Save. Did not like that. Please do open. Now refresh. Get the done icon. Is done the same thing? No, it's not. I saved that while it was building, and it seems to somehow be confused. Whatever. Very good. Okay, still failed. Null check used on the ID repository.dart. So someone in the chat was trying to be real smart and like, oh, yeah, they said, oh, yeah, I have to pass that in for sure. Someone was like, don't use a null check operator. And I overlooked it. And yeah, they were right because I should have. Well, I mean, I was going to, that was just broken code. It was never going to work. Could have like had a whole check for the null thing and it would have just highlighted that it was totally broken. But this errored after it got back from the server. That means the database may and does have a record in it. Yeah. Let's go. So this is how I would use Serverpod like for realsies. There's other really fun stuff that I am excited to get to, like filtering and how to read these, how to read them from a certain author, how to read ones from a certain author that were created after a certain time, and how to communicate with the Serverpod endpoint efficiently around that kind of challenge. But yeah, I'm excited about that. Anyway, let's now, I think if I refresh, actually nothing really exciting will happen because I'm not navigating on, well, that's not what I wanted. I'm not navigating after a successful thing, nor am I loading the new posts, not loading yet. Yeah, we just sit here, but at least it doesn't crash and the post is saved and the author is me. So that's really short-sighted. But that's pretty cool, and I think worth a commit. All seems pretty good. Pretty good. Adds ability to save posts. I have 2 commits. I may not have pushed code from last week. Boy, do I have egg on my face. All right. Let's now navigate back to the main page from the new post page. So new post. How do I want to do this? So let's think here. How am I going to communicate that this save happened? Well, I believe that I want to use the block listener class widget, and the state needs to probably have some kind of indication of this. So, oh, this is what I think we should do. Yeah, I like this better. We're going to just have a post here. Do I want that? Let's try it. So we could just have a post in the state and then check its ID. We'd have to check, it would start null when the user starts filling out the form. We'd have a post. And then when we save it, we could overwrite it with an ID and then have a block listener that checks for the ID and navigates us back. I guess I'll do that. So there's a nullable post. It's called item. We definitely need to rebuild. Build. And then what we'll be able to do here is say emit state.copy with item will get saved post. And it will know what item is after the build completes. which it should have done. It's currently Flutter pub getting, I think. No, it's still building. It's still running. Build runner. Yes. Soon it will be done. Now it is done. Very good. And on the 8th day of Observable Flutter, people said the emit function was good. So that's great. And now back on the new post view, we can wrap this whole shenanigan with a new widget that will be a block listener. And the block that it gets will be the block. Do you need to type? Not defined. Because we need Flutter block. I haven't used that yet. Now have I? Now have I? Yes. Okay, that's how you sort the alphabet. Okay, the block listener now needs a listener and then a child. And the listener takes both the context and the latest state. Wonderful. And this is where we'll say if the state.item.id. Oh, what's your problem? New block state. Oh, new post state. I do this all the time. I just like write the wrong little keyword thing. New post state. Okay. What's your problem? Conditions. There we go. If the item exists and its ID is not null, then it's time to navigate us. And whoever liked that I checked Stack Overflow before, prepare to be happy again. Oh, I think it's navigator pop. Navigator out of context. Right. And we can pass something back here, but not going to because don't care. Yeah. All right. I think this will work. When we save, we should go back to the home page and nothing will happen. The block listener, I think, is a nice. I like this style of solution with the problem is like when your state changes in a certain way such that a transient action needs to take place, how do you detect that and like signal it? And this is the Flutter block way to do it. Use the block listener. And this method is called whenever the state changes. And so we know that this will only happen once because we will immediately leave the page. And I guess we'll need to dispose of the block at that point. Dispose. What's the problem? Isn't a method. Okay. Is it close? Great. Let's test that. Make app. Hi, Buzz Adam, say the hackers. I believe in a thing called love. That I will go back to. Return to home page, please. Nice. And in the database, which is here, it's still working. Wunderbar. Now, in the timeline view, we can begin to load some data, which is pretty exciting. Push. Oh yeah, so is push interesting. One thing we're gonna do. Let's watch this. So this will be a wait. When we return to this, I'm going to want to load data again. There we are. And then what I think I just want to print like done saving. And I believe that here we'll be able to add a new event to the block to refresh and grab that same post. Actually, I might not even need to, because the repository, which is just a singleton, is going to already know about the item, because in the post, actually just in the repository, we are saving it in the local cache. So it'll depend on how we implement the load method. But I'm curious, I think this should work. We should see that at the end. Yeah, so did I save you? Come back, go here, go back. Great, done saving, printed right then. So we may or may not add a event to the block at that moment. Time will tell. To begin, the timeline block will need a new block. Oh yeah, I'll rename that file. I've been wanting to do that. So block is going to come out into here, and I will rename you to be timeline block. And then timeline view can also, oh no, you're in the view folder. Not what I wanted. Not what we wanted. Delete. Go away. Delete. And then timeline will export. Yeah, keep that a little simpler. When I deleted the version of that, sorry boys. We'll regenerate momentarily, because for now, timeline block is going to have load. And this is a load timeline event. That seems good. And then here, actually, I'll rebuild first. Well, I'm glad that's entertaining. It's kind of you to say. Isn't it good to show a successful message on saving post? Yeah, so you can absolutely show a toast. You know, a sophisticated app would probably do that. I think the way I'm going to indicate that the post was saved is by going back to the timeline and having the saved post be at the top. But even still, then you'd, ideally you'd like go back and the new one would like fade in, kind of have this obvious experience for the user. Oh, I wonder if we can use, that'd actually be a fun feature. Maybe we can get to that today. Maybe. Oh, maybe. Oh, maybe. Breaking out into some Mario tunes. All right, that regenerated. That's looking good. OE.map and load is what we have now. So again, this took the event and we're going to pass it to load timeline, and we'll pass in the event and the emitter. That's good. And we need a new method that I was already starting to write. Oh, load posts event. Oh, we need to load timeline this time. Almost agreed with my past self. So here we're going to load all the events and put them in the state. This is great. And things are about to get super interesting. I don't know how far we're going to get today, but like list, I don't necessarily want to go to the timeline or go to the server and load everything again. Otherwise, why am I bothering to cache anything? So I'd really like to go to the timeline or go to Serverpod and ask for just events newer than my newest post. This will all be fun to do. But we're going to hide all of that nonsense from the block. This should be very simple, nothing interesting here. And if you're a Riverpod person, you should be able to very easily imagine how you would just take this code and put it in, well, you take this code and put it in a Riverpod provider, and then you do the Riverpod version of this, which I believe is just like setting the state. So for that, you'd say like state equals state.copyWith, assuming you were using freezed for the Riverpod state. And that would be the same as the emit method. And, they're both really strong libraries. They're both great. But first we need this list method. Load timeline is what you're called now. Cool. And you're now a timeline. I'll add that type here, timeline state. Cool. The repo needs a list method. So this will start in the actual base repository. It's going to return a future list of T and its list. And one day there's going to be some like filters here, but not yet. So the very simple version of this will be, let's have a same kind of thing here where we have an outsource to a method to actually make the network call. And maybe we'll call that load. I don't know. And so load will return a list of T. And that will be our items. And then we'll cache them all. So here we'll get the, oops, sorry. The item will go there, item. So we're just caching all of the items accessible by their ID. And we will return the items. Now this is again, not reading from the cache, but what we'll do in phase 2 of this method is once there's a potential to filter, we can we can grab the most recent post, get its created at time, and then call load with a filter for created at greater than that timestamp. That will give us back just new items. We will return, we'll cache those, and actually we can set ourselves up now. We want to return from the cache, not the loaded items. So this would be dot posts or dot values. And then we need to sort. How do you sort? Do you take an iterable? Okay, and then you're going to need a comparator, right? Oh no, I don't know. Dart sort list sort method. Yeah, then we pass the compare to. Oh, great. So I probably had to do. So you don't have a sort because we need to do to list because it's an iterable. Now we can sort. And why are you mad? Let's say I had an iterable here. Huh. What's the issue? Void. Oh, because sort returns void. So we'll do that. There we go. Nice. All right. So the comparator. Do people want to hear just a quick thing about sorting? Is this does anyone want to hear about sorting, or does everyone know about sorting? Oh, so this method goes in sort, huh? Not into list. That's funny. So we'll say a dot created at, and it doesn't know, right? These are both T. Where the heck is my cursor? This is a T and this is a T, and created at is not a thing on every object under the sun. So we got to go back to the bindings and add a way. What I'm wondering here is, should this just have a like get created at, or should it have a sort? And I think we're going to have a sort method. So this will take, so return an integer because that's what sort methods need to do. And it will be compare to, I guess, or compare. And this will take a TA, TB, and that's it. Oh no, I don't want to call it compare. I want to say sort by create, or sort by created at. Sort descending. How about that? Sort descending. I don't know what that means for all future types of T. They may have a created at, they may not have a created at, but sort descending should always make sense. And so this should be bindings dot sort descending. We'll just use this as a tear off. Cool. Now I should have some red because I'll have to implement that method in the post bindings. Create the missing override. There we are. Sort descending. And now we can finally write a.created@compare to b.created@. And I honestly don't know if this is going to be ascending or descending, and we'll find out. And if it's descending, we'll flip it. Can never remember. There's some more red in here. What's the problem? Post repository. Right, you need load. Get load, get load, get load. Get load, get load, get load. Return client dot post dot list, I was calling it. And, it'd really be nice to call these the same things. Well, persist was to save. All right, that's fine. Now, the list method doesn't exist. So you need to, does this even need to be async? No, it doesn't. Yeah, nice. All right, we got to make that list method. So onto the server. Post endpoint. Let's make a list method. I can't wait to get to filtering. I think that's going to be super fun. List method will take some parameters at some point, but nothing yet. Find or like list. What I don't know what this actually calls it. Find, I guess. It just takes everything. Nope, something's wrong. What's the problem? Future post. Oh, this gets a find all. Oh boy. What is it? Wait, find returns a list of posts. Why did it? Oh, because I have to change this. Okay, now we say find session. Cool. I'd like to understand more about T. Ooh. And this, yes, may have been would like to hear something about sorting. So we'll talk about those real quick while this generates. Although Serverpod generated super fast. Make generate. I won't have long to talk if I want to finish by the time this is done, especially if I waste all of the time. So sorting is, where the heck? Post repository. Yeah. So sorting is super interesting. There's different algorithms like bubble sort, which is really performant. No, there's a lot of different sorting algorithms. Quick sort, merge sort are like the ones that are really good. In general, you never think about which sorting algorithm is happening. That's basically a solved problem. But all sorting algorithms need an ability to look at two objects of a certain, from the list and just figure out which one should go first. And then that is an incremental step that is repeated over and over and over again within the larger sorting algorithm. And that incremental step is the same regardless of the larger sorting algorithm. And so the sort method here that we're using, probably uses quicksort because it's well named. I believe it's the fastest, but we don't care. It's not our problem. It's going to handle all the complex stuff for us. It just needs us to tell it how to compare item A and item B from wherever they've been plucked out of the unsorted list and figure out which one should go first in the sorted list. So that's like a super quick crash course on sorting. Now, T, someone wanted to hear a little more about T, not powder. Oh, that's so cool. When I saw your name, I thought, I wonder if that's from Arcane / League of Legends. I don't know how big these characters are in League of Legends. I've only played it for like an hour. But I loved the show Arcane. Super cool. And it's fun that your avatar is the character. You're not powder. You're what, Jinx, I guess? I'm going to call you Jinx. Anyway, Jinx. So T is what's called a generic. And the concept here is that you could define a class that performs certain operations, is a container around instances of, et cetera, some undefined data type. And it's undefined for the duration of like the code that spells out that class. So lists from the core library are probably the most obvious version of this, where we define lists of whatever on earth we want to put in the list. And the list class, when the Dart authors that wrote the list class were writing it, they could not foresee all of the things that would go in it, but they knew that they would want to be able to talk about the type of the thing that was in it. And so you do that with a generic, and the convention is to just put T, which stands for type, but you can put longer or more helpful things, especially if you have multiple. Then it can be nice to kind of maybe even use whole names instead of letters, so it's easier to keep track of which one's which. But the idea is some other class, either at instantiation time or at its own class definition time, is going to provide what T is. And we see that in the post repository, which extends repository and says, by the way, for me, T is a post. And then in all of these methods, whenever we see T for a post repository, T is a post. So we're accepting a post, we're saving it, we're caching it, and we're returning the saved version of the post. And on we go. We're returning a list of posts if we're calling list from a post repository. Generic Dart. I don't know. I'm not gonna lie. I missed my own pun. I didn't catch it. It was a genuine pun, not intended. Or maybe it was, and I just then immediately forgot about it. Okay, that's sorting in generics. So what on earth was I doing? Oh, I wrote the list method. Now in our repository class of post repository, we can call client.post.list, and we return them. Exciting, which takes us back to timeline.block. And in the load timeline event, we're now able to call list, which I was already calling. Very optimistic of me. We get posts back and we show them, and they were already sorted. And where did that happen? That was in the correct place. The repository returns sorted values. You could imagine the cache holding on to them pre-sorted, so you don't have to sort every time. That would be better, but I'm not going to worry about that. In fact, that could be a lot better. We could have a cache method that both adds the item and then like pre-sorts them into another prepared list so that at read time, every time we don't have to keep sorting over and over again. That would really be way better. I'll leave it to do. Maybe sort these on when we cache and not every read. Maybe. This is a really passive aggressive maybe, because it's kind of a definitely. Let's make the app. Watson, let's make the app. Server still running. I think I've added code. Did I run generate? I did run generate, but I still have to restart the server. Pretty sure. So let's restart the server. Thank you. Okay, now you're started. Oops. Now you're started. Now here you are. It would probably help to add a timeline event.load to this so that it actually loads the data. Oh, and then we have to show it. We've got a really advanced build method here that isn't showing the posts. I'll tell you what, I promise you, I've written Flutter code before. This will be a builder, because of course. And an item count. Yes. We also need the block builder. So I'm going to wrap this in a builder. And this will be a block builder, which is going to come from Flutter block. And then this gets a block, which will be the block. And then the builder is going to get also the state. That's better. Now we can actually reference the state. State.items.length. Apparently, probably posts. Huh? Posts. Yeah, it's posts. Oh, I may have to say that it's the timeline state. Yeah, cool. All right. So we've got we got a builder that returns a scaffold. The scaffold has its own builder, so that needs a build item builder. And this will get the context and the index. And we have to return a post view, we'll call it. And that will take the state.posts at the index. And the post view will be a stateless widget. I hate that. Why does that helper even exist? Stateless. Right. It's like, which one of these is the good one? Neither. Why? How do I do this? Invalid type? What are you talking about? How is post? Oh, we have to import post. Now we're cooking. String. Oh, yeah. Okay. Text. Here we go. Oh, no, here we don't go. What's the problem? Oh, you became a named parameter. It's getting exciting now. Oh. All right. They are not sorted in the way that I wanted. So we go back to the repository and go to sort descending and go to post repository, sort descending, B compared to A. Oh, this could be a good way to remember the compare to. If I want descending, then I'll just put the second one first. Is that always going to hold? I don't know. I'm not smart enough to know. Nice. Go here was the fourth one. Very good was the first one. Awesome. Now, if I create a new one, will it appear automatically or will I have something else I have to do? The fifth post, brother, didn't load. We did say done saving. Oh, wait. Yes. So let's think. The timeline view can probably just add another one of these. I think that's fine. Because not only, not only will we want to load our own posts, like we technically already have our own post. We saved it in the repository, but there could be other ones that have loaded that other users have created since then. So this I think makes sense. Sixth sense. Hey, all right. And we see all these requests coming in. Well, there's not a ton. Number of queries, 0. Victor, are you still here? I don't think this is right. 0 queries? To reverse the sort, you can also negate the output. Oh, that's true. Yeah. Yeah. True. Minus A not compared to B. Yes. Yes. That would work. All right, we're at an hour and 45. I think this is the correct time to break, but I'm so excited for next week. Nope. Next week, I'm going to be at Google Cloud Next, and there will be no stream next week. But I'm excited about the next stream happening in a future week where filtering will become the name of the game. And in the post repository, nope. In the normal repository, we will not cache values and then never read the cache because we will load only new items, which will be a thing that requires some kind of organized sorting capacity. And again, you can do this very directly with Serverpod. Like I'm going to overcomplicate things on the next stream, but you can just add a parameter to the timeline endpoint, no, post endpoint. We can just add like a nullable date time parameter that's like created after, and then we can put that into our query here. We're totally fine. Totally fine. But that's just one possible filter. And we might have like 6 filters that our front end could have any subset of. And the composition code for this query gets a little confusing the more possible filters you have that can be applied in different ways. And so I want to approach that in a more coherent way than maybe the naive way. And to start, I'm not going to have raw parameters here that can be filtered on. I will instead have a class that represents a possible type of filter and knows how to apply itself to a query. And there will be a lot of exploration and kicking the tires, and we'll see how that goes, but that's next time. For now, this will go away. And I think I can save and push, and I'll try to get to this stage to code along by next stream from the beginning. Oh, wow. Coding along? Well, that's extra credit. That's awesome. That would be very cool. I need to save all the things to Git. Here we go. Commit. And this was, what did I do in this last one? Make ads, timeline, shows, posts on timeline. That's what we'll call it. For folks who have not done full stack development before, it may not be obvious to you how much work Serverpod is hiding. And like, man, it's so cool. It's really, really cool. I'm quite smitten with it, as you can tell. Well, folks, that will wrap up this week's Observable Flutter. To those viewing live or in the future, I salute you. And I look forward to resuming, not next week, because I will be in Vegas of the loss variety for Google Cloud Next, but the following week, where we add filters to our CRUD operations and data layer in the best social media app you've ever seen. See you, everybody.